Welcome to the Underclass Podcast with Austin Picard. I'm an independent researcher who can't stomach being lied to on a daily basis by the mainstream media, while we live in a fracturing society, launched into parallel realities, falling perfectly onto the two sides of the political spectrum. I remain in the underclass. From PSYOP to MindWar, The Psychology of Victory. Co-authored by United States Army Major General Paul Vallely with Lieutenant Colonel Military Intelligence Michael Aquino, PSYOP Research and Analysis Team Leader. Former high-ranking member of Anton LaVey's Church of Satan and the notorious founder of the Temple of Set, Michael Aquino provides the introduction to the book in November 2003, stating that, in the later 1970s, psychological operations PSYOP doctrine in the U.S. Army had yet to emerge from the disappointment and frustration of the Vietnam War. Thus, it was that in 1980, Colonel Paul Vallely, commander of the 7th PSYOP Group, asked me as his headquarters PSYOP research and analysis team leader to draft a paper that would encourage some future thought within the PSYOP community. He did not want a Vietnam post-mortem, but rather some fresh and innovative ideas concerning PSYOP's evolution and application. I prepared an initial draft which Colonel Vallely reviewed and annotated, which resulted in revised drafts and critiques until he was satisfied. And the result of that was this paper, From PSYOP to MindWar, The Psychology of Victory. Colonel Vallely sent copies of it to various governmental offices, agencies, commands, and publications involved or interested in PSYOP. He intended it not as an article for publication, but simply as a talking paper to stimulate dialogue. In this it was quite successful, judging by the extensive and lively letters he received concerning it over the next several months. Major Gregory Cease is an educational psychologist serving as the chief of the PSYOP training branch of the JFK Special Warfare Center and School's Directorate of Training and Doctrine, which has notable connections to the September 11th attacks, the state-sponsored 1993 World Trade Center bombing, as well as the murder of Rabbi Meir Kahane. El Sayed Nosser, one of the Blind Sheikh's men, was arrested for the murder in 1991. Dozens of Arabic bomb-making manuals and documents related to terrorist plots were found in Nosser's New Jersey apartment, with manuals from the U.S. Army John F. Kennedy Special Warfare Center and School, known informally as SWCS at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Secret memos linked to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and 1,440 rounds of ammunition were also found in Nosser's apartment. According to Major Gregory Cease, who is a U.S. Army Psychological Operations Officer, currently serving as the PSYOP Division Chief in the United States Army Special Operations Command, U.S. ASOC G-39, who also happened to write the foreword to Michael Aquino's paper, MindWar, begins with a quote from John Milton's Paradise Lost. "The mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven." Cease proceeds by attempting to put into justifiable terms the mission and motivation behind MindWar, explaining that the concept of MindWar represents a holistic and proactive approach to psychological operations rather than the traditional reactionary role to which it's been relegated. MindWar focuses on emerging and anticipating problems, situations, and conditions affecting the information environment, not only to manage the perceptions of groups and individuals, but to address the conditions and situations that fuel discontent and drive instability. MindWar provides the capability to resolve problems before they begin. Utilizing 21st century scientifically valid, empirically based methodologies, MindWar is the equivalent of a mental preemptive strike. To be effective, MindWar requires a detailed analysis of an anticipated or emerging situation, focusing on the physical, information, and cognitive domains. Only this combined approach will result in a necessary understanding of the underlying issues that need to be addressed for mind war effectiveness. Mind war can be used to address not only traditional problems such as war and conflict, but also the full range of asymmetric threats, terrorism, violent extremism, drug and human trafficking, the challenges associated with globalization, migration, spread of disease, overpopulation, and the social and economic problems resulting from the physical effects of climate change, crop failure, economic volatility, and resource competition. This book proposes a conceptual and operational design for the development of a mind war capability. It discusses a pragmatic, multi-phase model as the framework for its execution and reviews a body of research conducted over the last 30 years. The preface shockingly seems to honestly grapple with the current position of the United States military-industrial complex and the permanent war state. Psychological operations, or the mind war, is then proposed as the peaceful approach and moral justification or effective solution to the 21st century dilemma. It begins with a quote from Arthur C. Clarke that reads, "Politicians should read science fiction, not westerns and detective stories." Since the first caveman beamed another one with a rock, violence against the bodies and belongings of others, hereinafter, physical warfare, has been a constant and until now accepted method of addressing, if not resolving, disputes between tribes, feudal holdings, and eventually nation states. Indeed, physical warfare has been glorified and its participants honored, despite its being an engine of death, destruction, and misery. Certainly, no other human pastime has been more publicized and memorialized in literature and the arts. A visit to any library or museum is sufficient to demonstrate that, despite all rhetoric to the contrary, humanity loves the mystique of war. The problem with this addiction is not merely one of compassion for victims of physical warfare. If physical war had a record of positive accomplishment, resolving the issues that prompted it, it could at least be excused on these grounds. But this is rarely, indeed almost never the case. As Orson Welles said in the 1949 film, The Third Man, in Italy for 30 years under the Borgias, they had warfare, terror, murder, and bloodshed. They produced Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and the Renaissance. In Switzerland, they had brotherly love. They had 500 years of democracy and peace. And what did that produce? The cuckoo clock. The moment the cooperative, reasoned dialogue is discarded in favor of brute force, the inexorable tendency is to reject anything other than the blind force henceforth. Negotiation, compromise, and rational problem solving are abandoned, indeed condemned as signs of weakness and betrayal. As humanity has advanced technologically, weapons of physical warfare have become more efficient, projectable, and lethal. But whether it is an industrial nation with armed forces deployed worldwide, or guerrilla conflicts, the currently in vogue term is terrorism, using hand-to-hand combat, the allure has not slackened in the least. Humanity still craves and loves war. The 21st century dilemma for the United States is simply that physical warfare is no longer practical on the scale it now requires to be effective. If the destruction or exhaustion of another country or intra-transnational group of people can be considered effective, with the explosion of world population and corresponding migration, there are now too many enemies, whether individual or institutional. Physical war against them can no longer be neatly confined to national boundaries or the traditional taking of token cities. Physical warfare has become ruinously expensive, especially for the United States as the world's de facto policeman and preeminent warfare state. Indeed, it is arguable that war and world policing have become the raison d'etre of the United States. The Department of Defense, which absorbs approximately one quarter of the entire U.S. government. Like Orson Welles' character in The Third Man, Friedrich Nietzsche also regarded war as an energizing, revitalizing political influence, deterring the otherwise sluggish descent towards the last man. But he did not love war for its destructiveness, and perhaps a great day will come when a people, distinguished through war and victories, voluntarily proclaims, "We break the sword," disarming oneself from an intensity of feeling while one is the best armed. That is the means to real peace. The Wanderer and His Shadow, 1880. Budget has long since abandoned its titular mission of defending the territorial United States, so much so that an entirely new government department, Homeland Security, has been created for that purpose. Rather, it is DoD's function to project U.S. military power into the territories and affairs of other countries. The stated justifications are many: democracy, weapons of mass destruction, nuclear nonproliferation, regional stability, anti-terrorism, replacing anti-communism, and/or the catch-all, U.S. national security. Not only has the United States assumed the role of world policeman, the planet's other countries generally take this role for granted. Every new crisis, especially of a violent nature, generates an appeal for U.S. intervention, or at least expectation of it. Assuming that mankind's lust for war cannot be eliminated, the League of Nations and its United Nations successor stand as utopian monuments to failure in this naive desire. What can realistically be done about it? The answer is that while war will remain inevitable and inexorable, it is both possible and practical to revise the way it is conducted. As the world's policeman and supreme warfare state, the United States has a unique prerogative to determine and change the context and structure of present and future war. The new type of war proposed here allows subnational groups, nation states, and multinational alliances to continue contesting with one another. It allows for modest or far-reaching goals. It even retains traditional glamour, emotional fervor, and heroes. The romance of war continues undimmed into the future. Mind War is presented in parts and phases. Part 1 defines the concept of mind war. Phase 1 introduces the redefinition of an assigned conflict in terms of an acceptable and practical outcome, diagnosis of the disease, and prescription of the cure. Part 2 describes a wide variety of old concepts consistently pursued through the mind war mission of the Army. Of course, propaganda and the general parameters are discussed, even referencing something called beyond propaganda and what's referred to as the influence continuum. Pre-mind war mind control attempts are spoken of, subsequently leading into a small section dedicated to MK Delta, MK Ultra, MK Search, Project Stargate, ESP, and Project Jedi. He proceeds to list various methods of subliminal and voluntary psych control, SLIPC, Psychon, number 1, Homo electromagneticus, Psychon number 2, brainwave resonance, Psychon number 3, magnetism, transcranial magnetic stimulation, magnetic reconnection portals, atmospheric ionization, hypnotism, magic, and what's called the phenomenon of religion in the context of something called internal religious psyop and the Army Chaplain Corps all seem to play a prominent role in the mind war. After the section devoted to magic and a spoonful of sugar, Part 3 introduces the campaign, starting with paramilitary operations under the guise of intelligence, emotion-arousing violence, false flags, and the degradation of the individual. The unethical aims of our ruling class have been extensively documented. The psychological framework of modern society has largely been manufactured through deceptive tactics of social engineering and state-sponsored violence, deliberately designed to elicit a long-desired, predetermined outcome. Our story begins with a more recent example of individual degradation, seamlessly paired with an emotionally arousing, violent false flag and manufactured mass casualty event, complete with false motives and conveniently generated media spin. Yet another example of an alternative narrative providing a much more plausible explanation for what was considered the deadliest terrorist attack in the United States since the September 11th attacks, and the deadliest mass shooting event in modern U.S. history until the 2017 Las Vegas shooting. On June 12, 2016, 29-year-old Omar Mateen shot and killed 49 people and wounded 53 more in a mass shooting at Pulse, a gay nightclub in Orlando, Florida. Orlando police officers fatally shot him after a 3-hour standoff. In a 911 call made shortly after the shooting began, Mateen swore allegiance to the leader of the Islamic State, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, and said the U.S. killing of Abu Wahib in Iraq the previous month had triggered the shooting. As is always the case, there is much more to the story, painting a far different picture than that of the official narrative. As they say, the devil is in the details, and so our involuntary dance with the devil begins, if only to uncover the malevolent machinations of these wicked tyrants and insufferable despots beyond contempt.
Victims? Don't be melodramatic. Look down there. Would you really feel any pity if one of those dots stopped moving forever? If I offered you 20,000 pounds for every dot that stopped, would you really, old man, tell me to keep my money? Or would you calculate how many dots you could afford to spare? Free of income tax, only. Free of income tax. The only way you can save money nowadays.
A lot of good your money will do you in jail.
That jail's in another zone. There's no proof against me. Besides you.
I should be pretty easy to get rid of.
Pretty easy.
Wouldn't be too sure.
I carry a gun. Don't think they'd look for a bullet wound after you hit that ground. Pity. Holly, what fools we are talking to each other this way, as though I'd do anything to you, or you to me. You're just a little mixed up about things in general. Nobody thinks in terms of human beings. Governments don't. Why should we? They talk about the people and the proletariat. I talk about the suckers and the mugs. It's the same thing. They have their 5-year plans. So have I.
You used to believe in God.
Well, I still do believe in God, only. I believe in God and mercy and all that, but the dead are happier dead. They don't miss much here, poor devils. What do you believe in? Holly, I'd like to cut you in, old man. There's nobody left in Vienna I can really trust, and we've always done everything together. When you make up your mind, send me a message. I'll meet you any place, any time, and when we do meet, old man, it's you I want to see, not the police. Remember that, won't you? Don't be so gloomy. After all, it's not that awful. But what the fella said. In Italy, for 30 years under the Borgias, they had warfare, terror, murder, and bloodshed, but they produced Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and the Renaissance. In Switzerland, they had brotherly love. They had 500 years of democracy and peace, and what did that produce? The cuckoo clock. So long, Holly.
It is Latin night at the Pulse, a gay nightclub in downtown Orlando, packed with 320 people. And this video of people dancing taken just last night, and then at 2:02 a.m., bartenders announcing last call, when suddenly the gunfire.
could start smelling the ammunition in the air. Like it smelled like fire.
Was your instinct to hit the ground?
I just wanted to get as low to the floor as I could and try to crawl into safety.
As that gunfire erupted, you could hear it from the outside.
Oh my God, they're all shooting back and forth.
Our officer engaged in a gun battle with that suspect. The suspect at some point went back inside the club where more shots were fired.
You see people screaming and falling, and there was blood everywhere.
The nightclub has 3 main areas: the hip-hop room, the main bar with the dance floor, and a patio area. Some people escaping out this side door and into this small alleyway. Jean Yell telling me he crawled on the floor, reaching through the curtains to find a sliver of an exit, but that people were climbing over one another to get out. People were jumping over you?
People were trying to jump over me, like pushing my head down, like it's a state of panic, like we just wanted to get out.
Another survivor, Joshua, telling us how he hid under an SUV, discovering a survivor who'd been shot in both arms and in the back. He took off his shirt and used it as a tourniquet.
I took my shirt off, I tied it as tight as I could over the first wound. Second one, I took his shirt, tied it over that one. Thought he was okay. I kind of like held him over, like his arm over my shoulder and vice versa.
No ambulances left. Police told him to get in the back of the cruiser and to give the man a bear hug. 2:08 a.m. and the Pulse nightclub posts this on Facebook. Everyone get out of Pulse and keep running. But inside, the frantic scene continues. So many looking for the exits, others hiding in rooms with no way out.
I saw him. He was maybe 20, 30 feet away from me. And I saw the fire coming out of his gun every time he shot fire.
About 15, 20 people got shoved into a one-person bathroom until he started shooting through the doorway.
Dozens who did not make it out, becoming hostages stuck inside. Some huddled inside a bathroom just off the dance floor, texting loved ones. Call police, I'm going to die.
He called him a terrorist, has them in the women's bathroom, and please come get us out because he's about to kill us.
And in the midst of the attack, the killer himself. Authorities say he called 911 to pledge his allegiance to the terror group ISIS. Authorities sending armored vehicles and SWAT teams. They rushed to the scene. But for nearly 3 hours, they hold their fire, waiting outside.
We're being told possibly up to 15 remaining in the club that are barricaded in.
Why did the SWAT team wait 3 hours?
In that time, we need to set up, reevaluate, reassess what's happening, and make sure that all the pieces are in place.
Around 5 a.m., explosions at the club.
Some sort of explosion or...
Moments later, we learn it's a controlled explosion set off by police to distract the gunman. An armored vehicle smashes through a wall of the club, and SWAT officers swarm in behind.
Look at that, just shooting back.
11 of them suddenly involved in a shootout with the killer.
We had 11 Orlando police officers that exchanged gunfire with the suspect and killed him.
Authorities say the shooter, revealed to be 29-year-old Omar Mateen, a U.S. citizen born in America with Afghani parents. Police say he used 2 guns, authorities revealing he purchased both of them in recent days.
It was a handgun and a AR-15 type assault rifle.
One round injuring an officer during the firefight. This damaged Kevlar helmet may have saved his life.
And it is with great sadness that I share we have not 20 but 50 casualties. In addition to the shooter, there are another 53 that are hospitalized.
Making this the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history.
Although it's still early in the investigation, we know enough to say that this was an act of terror and an act of hate.
The 15th time President Obama has addressed the nation since taking office after a mass shooting on U.S. soil. We do have an ABC News exclusive here tonight as we now get a new portrait of what it was like inside that nightclub as the gunman asked people their racial backgrounds, began talking about ISIS and holding them essentially hostage for several hours. This one survivor you're about to hear the tale of was in there for 3 hours as SWAT teams were assembling right outside here before they broke through those walls. And Gio Benitez talked to him a short time ago as he was leaving the hospital tonight. Gio is across town here in Orlando. Gio?
That's right, David. We are at the largest gay club in Orlando, and this is where we met that survivor. He played dead for 3 hours and was just released from the hospital. In fact, he's still wearing those hospital ID tags. Listen in.
He heard them on the, talking probably to the police department or texting, and he asked them, please do not text. And so they stopped, but then somebody started the texting back up again, and he said, didn't I say don't text? give me all your phones. Who's in here? Are you guys black? And a couple of them said, yeah. He said that I don't have an issue with the blacks. And then he got on the phone, I don't know if it was with the news or the police department, telling them that to stop, America needs to stop bombing ISIS in
So he
Syria.
was calling people on the phone?
Yeah, he called somebody on the phone.
And he was telling them stop bombing ISIS?
Stop bombing ISIS on the in Syria. Then he called somebody else that he knew, and he mentioned that that he was the fourth shooter, and there was 3 others, and he mentioned, I believe, a female name, and that was playing dead, or, you know, because he's saying that she has a bombing vest, and he has one too. And then he said there were 3 snipers out there waiting for cops to come so the snipers would shoot at the cops.
So this whole time, what were you doing? I mean, you must have heard all this gunfire.
Yeah. I stood quiet. You know, I said, I don't think he knew we were there until he came back in and shot again, and one black boy came crawling underneath the stall, grasping our legs and having me and my friend to drop to the floor. And he would go wash his hands and use the blower, and I felt something poke the back of my pocket.
You think he was poking you?
Yeah, it was like one quick touch or poke. I don't know if it was with I didn't know what he had to use as a weapon, but he probably was thinking of, you know, I'm dead.
So you played dead for 3 hours straight?
Yes, and my friend followed the role, you know, quiet. I heard the cops screaming, get down, get down. It looked like they were getting closer. I don't know, they pulled people from the other side of the club there out. He was busy fixing his rifle, or I don't know what he had, but he was busy fixing. I heard shells drop, you know, shells dropping on the floor. And he was happy that he got it fixed, and he said, oh, I got plenty of bullets.
He said, I've got plenty of
extra bullets. He started shooting in the stall, and I don't know if he was killing the ones in the back stall, and the cops bust a hole in the wall.
What did you see when you walked through that club?
No, I did not. They took me out of the hole in the wall.
And he says that he is a mentor to a lot of the young people in this community. He says he knew 75% of the people in that club, especially all of those who died. David.
Chilling to still see that hospital band around his wrist, Gio. We're glad he's okay.
Emergency 911, this is Dr. Lines being recorded. What?
I want to let you know I'm in Orlando, and I did the shooting.
What's your name?
My name is, I pledge of allegiance to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi of the Islamic State.
Okay. What's your name?
I pledge my allegiance to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi Hafidullah on behalf of the Islamic State.
Where are you at?
In Orlando.
Where in Orlando?
Sunday, June 12th, 2016. The time, 2:48 a.m.
Hello there. Hi there, this is Orlando Police. Who am I speaking with, please?
You're speaking with the person who pledged his allegiance to the Islamic State, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi Hafidullah.
Okay, can you tell me where you are right now so I can get you some help?
No, because you have to tell America to stop bombing Syria and Iraq. They're killing a lot of innocent people. So what am I to do here when my people are getting killed over there? You get what I'm saying?
I do. I completely get what you're saying. What I'm trying to do is prevent anybody else from getting in.
They need to stop the U.S. airstrikes. They need to stop the U.S. airstrikes, okay?
I understand that.
They need to stop the U.S. airstrikes. You have to tell the U.S. government to stop bombing. They're killing too many children. They're killing too many women.
I understand that. But here's why I'm here right now. I'm with the Orlando Police. Can you tell me what you know about what's going on tonight?
What's going on
is
that I feel the pain of the people getting killed in Syria and Iraq and all over the Muslim Ummah.
Okay. So have you done something about that?
Yes, I have.
Tell me what you did, please.
No, you already know what I did.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how to keep you safe and how to get this resolved peacefully because I'm not a politician, I'm not a government. All I can do is help individuals, and I'm going to start with helping you.
By the way, there's some vehicles outside that have some bombs, just to let you know. Your people are going to get it, and I'm going to ignite it if they try to do anything stupid.
Okay, I understand that, and I'll pass that along. Can you tell me what vehicle? Because I don't want to see anybody get hurt.
No. But I'll tell you this. It can take out a whole city block almost.
I understand that. Tell me, in the club, do you have any injured people with you that you brought with you?
I'm not letting you know nothing.
Well, I'm trying to offer you help.
Well, you need to know that they need to stop bombing Syria and Iraq. The U.S. is collaborating with Russia, and they're killing innocent women and children, okay?
I hear what you're saying.
My homeboy Tamerlan Sarnaev did his thing on the Boston Marathon. My homeboy Munir Abu Salha did his thing, okay? So now it's my turn, okay?
Okay, let's start. My name's Andy. What's yours?
My name is Islamic Soldier, okay?
Okay. What can I call you?
Call me Mujahideen. Call me the Soldier of God.
Okay. Okay. So that's a lot for me to say. So can I just call you something else? Do you have a name, a nickname? Can you tell me?
Let you know?
Yeah. I'm here. I'm listening. I'm here. I'm listening.
It's the blessed month of Ramadan, if you ever know about that.
Yes, I do. I
I
understand.
fasted the whole day today. I fasted the whole day and I prayed.
Okay. I understand that. Okay. What I'm trying to do is make sure that you and no one else suffers any further injury. Okay. I can help you.
I have a vest.
Okay. You have a vest.
Hey.
I understand that. Okay, and so what kind of vest are you talking about? Is it a bullet-resistant vest? Is it a bomb vest?
No. It's what they use in France.
It's what they use in France. Okay.
All right, I gotta go.
Well, I'd like you to stay on the phone with me, please. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Are you there? Please stay on the phone with me so I can help pass along your concerns.
You could bring the bomb dog. They're not gonna smell shit.
Well, I understand
that. Stuff, you can't smell it. Bring your little American bomb dog.
Okay, well,
they're fucking outdated anyway.
Well, tell me, you're wearing what? I presume from what you're saying, you're wearing a bomb vest.
No.
Well, you said you're wearing a vest.
No, I'm not.
So what are you wearing?
Yeah, like to go out to a wedding.
Okay. I'm not trying to joke with you. I'm trying to be serious and get this peacefully resolved. Okay? So, are you wearing a bomb vest? Okay. What can I call you? Let's go back to that. Let's start with that. Okay, I understand you're a soldier. I understand you're ISIS. I understand you're Mujahideen. You pledge your allegiance to someone whose name I can't pronounce. I apologize for that. Okay. Can you start with that? Are you an American citizen? Are you a local citizen? Are you a resident of Orlando? Hello? Are you there? Are there other shooters? Tell me what's going on, please. Hi there. This is Orlando Police calling you back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm sorry again. My name's Andy. What's yours?
Andy.
Okay. Tell me what's going on there right now, because I'm not there. I'm trying to help you.
After that, we'll probably send him back. If he picks up, I'm just going to call him over.
Hello, Omar. This is Andy from Orlando Police.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what's going on right now, Omar.
Yo, the airstrike that killed Abu Wahib a few weeks ago,
Yes, sir.
that's what triggered it, okay?
Okay.
Okay? They shouldn't have bombed and killed Abu Wahib, okay?
I understand.
And do your fucking homework and figure out who Abu Wahib is, okay?
I understand that. What I want to find out is, are you injured? Omar.
None of your business.
Well, I understand that, but if you're injured, I want to get you some help.
No.
Okay, do you have somebody with you?
None of your business.
Okay, tell me what you want me to pass along. Because I can't sit here and do research. I want to pass along. Tell them to stop bombing in Syria.
Yes, the airstrikes need to stop. Stop collaborating with Russia. Okay.
I can pass that along.
And let it be known. Let it be known. In the next few days, you're going to see more of this type of action going on. Okay.
Okay. I understand that. I can pass that along. Where is that going to happen?
None of your business. Just let it be known it's going to be done in the name of the Islamic State. Even though it's not fucking airstrikes, it's fucking strikes here, okay?
I understand that. I understand that. So tell me what happened tonight. How did this go down for you?
This went down. A lot of innocent women and children are getting killed in Syria and Iraq and Afghanistan, okay?
I understand that. You're upset about the bombing in Syria and Afghanistan, and you want the bombing and the killing to stop. I understand your concern. I share that concern. I want to pass your message along. Tell me what else you'd like me to pass along, please.
To stop. Tell them to stop.
I will do that. I will do that. So can you tell me how we can peacefully resolve this tonight? I'd like to see you come out. I'd like to talk to you some more.
Tell the airstrikes need to stop.
I'm doing that. I'm passing that message along. Immediately.
You see, now you feel how it is. Now you feel how it is.
I understand your concern, Omar. Do you have somebody that you brought with you that we need to check on and make sure they're not injured?
No, none of your, no, Mr. Hot Bitch negotiator, no, don't play no bullshit with me.
Well, I'm trying to help you. And you don't want people to get injured. I presume that means if you brought somebody with you, you don't want them hurt. Is that correct?
None of your business, homeboy.
Okay. Omar, can I get you to come outside and talk to my people there at the scene so we can peacefully resolve this?
No.
Okay, because I'm not there, but I have people there that would love to talk to you. Can you put down your weapon and come down outside and talk to them, please?
You want to know what type of weapon I have, too?
If you want to tell me.
Or you want to know how many weapons I have?
I can take that, too. I'm all ears, Omar. I have no agenda other than to help you and pass along this message.
So what year did you graduate from the police academy?
I'm sorry?
What year did you graduate from the police academy?
So this is about you, okay? I'm here to help you. I'm here to pass along your information, okay? You don't want to know ancient history about me. Tell me how I can help you. You asked me, do I want to know about weapons? Sure, tell me about your weapons. Omar, I'm trying to help you. I can't do that if you won't give me something to pass along to the people that are in power, which is, I presume, what you want to happen out of all of this. I don't want to see you or any of your associates get hurt, and I don't want to see anybody else get hurt in the United States or anywhere else around the world. So tell me how you and I can work together to get this peacefully resolved now. Omar, you got to talk to me. Ringing. 0316. One ring. Omar. Listen, this is Andy from the police again. I don't want to mess up your message You come out and you can tell it yourself. I'll arrange media or whatever you want. It's got to be a first step.
You're annoying me with a lot of these phone calls. I call you when I feel comfortable.
Well, I understand that, but obviously, it's my job. I need to be in contact with you. I'm your communication lifeline to everyone that's outside. Omar.
Yeah.
What's going on? I couldn't get a hold of you for a while.
Well, you're annoying me with these phone calls, and I don't really appreciate it.
Well, I understand that, but the fact that you appreciate it or not doesn't matter at this point. We need to talk, and we need to stay in open communication.
Like that. Hey, no.
I'm treating you like an adult. We need to stay in constant contact.
No.
Tell me what's going on right now, Omar.
What's going on is that the airstrikes need to stop.
Yes.
Need to stop.
The airstrikes need to stop. I've heard that, and I want you to come outside and tell us that yourself, so the message rings true from you. Not me passing along your message. I'm doing that, but I need you to come outside with no weapons. Omar. Yep, you did hang up. 325.
On June 11th, 2016, Pulse was hosting Latin Night, a weekly Saturday night event. A contestant from RuPaul's Drag Race, drag queen Kenya Michaels, is recorded to have been performing right as the shooting began, somehow surviving the shooting. About 320 people were still inside the club during last call at around 2 a.m. in the early morning hours of June 12th. Prosecutors in the trial of Mateen's second wife and widow Noor Salman showed jurors how casually her husband Omar Mateen entered the Pulse nightclub, casing it for 11 minutes. He then proceeds to leave the club and move his car to a closer position before coming back in with his 6-hour MCX semi-automatic rifle and a 9mm Glock 17 semi-automatic pistol. 2:02 a.m., Mateen bypassed Officer Adam Gruler, a uniformed off-duty Orlando police officer working extra duty as a security guard, entered the building through its southern entrance and began shooting patrons. Gruler took cover and called in a signal for assistance. He told a post-incident Police Foundation assessment team that when he witnessed Mateen shooting 2 patrons attempting to escape through an emergency exit, Gruler fired shots at him. In response, Mateen withdrew back into the nightclub and continued shooting victims as he traversed through the building, sometimes firing into bodies without checking whether they were already dead. When additional officers arrived at the nightclub beginning at 2:04 a.m., Gruler shouted, "The gunman's in the patio," and resumed firing at Mateen a minute later. 2 officers joined Gruler in engaging Mateen, who then retreated farther into the nightclub and began a hostage situation in one of the bathrooms. In less than 5 minutes, Mateen had fired approximately 200 rounds, pausing only to reload. Multiple reports showed that some of the people trapped inside the club during the shooting had sought help by calling or texting friends and family. Initially, some of them were even under the impression that the gunshots were firecrackers or part of the music. CNN reported how many described a scene of panic and confusion caused by the loud music and darkness. One person even shielded herself by hiding inside a bathroom and covering herself with bodies. The bartender said she took cover beneath the glass bar. According to a man trapped inside a bathroom with 15 other patrons, Mateen fired 16 times into the bathroom through the closed door, killing at least 2 and wounding several others. One of the hostages reported to ABC News and the Washington Post that Mateen entered the bathroom in the nightclub's northwest side and opened fire on the people hiding there, wounding several. The hostage, who had taken cover inside a stall with others, was injured by 2 bullets and struck with flying pieces of a wall hit by stray bullets. Shortly after entering the women's restroom, Mateen's rifle jammed. He then discarded the rifle and switched to his Glock 17 pistol. Strangely, two survivors quoted Mateen as saying, "I don't have a problem with black people." CBS News reported that Patience Carter, 20 years old, had fled into the bathroom of the Pulse nightclub during the Orlando massacre, and as the situation was winding down, she said the gunman told police negotiators on the phone that he pledged his allegiance to ISIS and that he wouldn't stop his assault until America stopped bombing his country. Carter said after he hung up the phone, he started speaking in Arabic, but she said she wasn't sure to whom, and then he had a question for the others cowering in earshot. "Are there any black people in here?" Mateen asked, according to Carter. She said she was too afraid to reply, but another black person hiding in the bathroom did. "I don't have a problem with black people," Mateen reportedly said in reply. "This is about my country. You guys suffered enough." Other survivors even heard Mateen claim he had explosives as well as snipers stationed around the club. Multiple patrons trapped inside the club called or texted 911 in an attempt to warn of the possible presence of explosives. At 2:09 a.m., several minutes after the gunfire began, the club posted on its Facebook page, "Everyone get out of Pulse and keep running." It was at 2:22 a.m. when Mateen placed one of a series of 911 calls, during which he happens to mention the alleged Boston Marathon bombers, Tamerlane and Zahar Tsarnaev, by name as his homeboys, and also made reference to an American citizen who died in a suicide bombing in Syria in 2014, named Moner Mohammed Abu Salah. According to the FBI, Mateen and Abu Salah knew each other casually and had attended the same mosque. The Washington Post cited one of the officers who claimed that after the initial rounds of gunfire between Mateen and Gruller, 6 officers shot out a large glass window and followed the sound of shooting to the bathroom area. When Mateen stuck his head out from one of the bathrooms, at least 2 officers shot at him. After the gunfire stopped, they were ordered to hold position instead of storming the bathroom. After about 15 to 20 minutes, SWAT arrived and had the officers withdraw as the officers were not really in tactical gear. SWAT then took over the operation. When asked why the officers didn't proceed to the bathroom and engage Mateen, Orlando Police Chief John Mina said, "It was because Mateen went from an active shooter to a barricaded gunman and had hostages." He also noted, "If he had continued shooting, our officers would have went in there." Mateen called a local TV station during the shooting at 2:45 a.m., News 13 of Orlando, and said, "I am the shooter. It's me. I am the shooter." He again repeated his claim that the shooting was triggered by a U.S.-led bombing strike which killed a military commander of the Islamic State in Iraq, named Abu Wahib. According to the post-incident Police Foundation assessment, at approximately 4:29 a.m., Mateen told negotiators that he planned to strap explosive vests, similar to those used in the November 2015 Paris attacks, to 4 hostages, strategically place them in different corners of the building, and detonate them in 15 minutes. In a press release, the FBI reported that no shots were heard between the time Mateen stopped exchanging gunfire with the first responders and 5:02 a.m., when Orlando police began breaching the building's wall. Multiple reports describe the moment just before the breach when Mateen entered a women's bathroom where the hostages were hiding and opened fire, killing a man who apparently sacrificed his life to save the woman behind him and at least one other, according to witnesses. Once negotiations ended, as the story goes, by 5:07 a.m., 14 SWAT officers, after failing to blow open a big enough hole in the bathroom's exterior wall using a bomb due to the wall's structure, successfully breached the building when a policeman drove a Bearcat armored vehicle through a wall in the northern bathroom. They then used 2 flashbangs to distract Mateen and shot at him. The breach drew Mateen out into the hallway, and at 5:14 a.m., he engaged the officers. He was shot 8 times and killed in the resulting shootout, which involved at least 11 officers, who fired about 150 bullets. He was reported down at 5:17 a.m. Time ran an article the very same day of the massacre, briefly describing the event, while instantly pointing out a few strange oddities in the background of the perpetrator. A gunman opened fire in an Orlando nightclub early Sunday morning, killing 50 people and wounding another 53 in the worst mass shooting in U.S. history. The FBI says the attack is being investigated as an act of terrorism. A shooter armed with an assault-type rifle and a handgun opened fire in the crowded Pulse Orlando, a gay nightclub, at about 2 a.m., police said. At one point, he left the club and exchanged shots with an officer outside. Then he went back in and took hostages, the Associated Press reports. A SWAT team went into the club at about 5 a.m. to rescue the hostages, and the shooter was killed in the ensuing gun battle. The shooter has been identified as Omar Mateen, 29, of Port St. Lucie, Florida, authorities said. Mateen had reportedly made calls to 911 early Sunday, stating his allegiance to the Islamic State. He was first flagged on the FBI's radar in 2013 and then again in 2014, FBI Assistant Special Agent in Charge Ron Harper said at a news conference. Both investigations were closed after inconclusive interviews. The agency interviewed Mateen twice after being alerted to him speaking of possible terrorist ties in 2013, but officials were unable to verify the substance of his comments. Mateen came to the FBI's attention again in the next year over possible ties to an American suicide bomber, Hopper said. The FBI closed that investigation after authorities determined that contact between the two were minimal. Mateen did not pose as a threat at that time, Hopper said. Mateen is a U.S. citizen who was born in New York and later moved to Florida. He was not under investigation or surveillance at the time of the Orlando nightclub massacre, according to the FBI. The ATF reported Mateen had legally purchased at least 2 firearms, a handgun and a long gun, within the last week. A security company, G4S, said Sunday that Mateen had been employed there since 2007, adding that it was shocked and saddened by the shooting. We are cooperating fully with all law enforcement authorities. Since 2007, he had been a security guard for G4S Secure Solutions. The Wall Street Journal criticized the UK-based security giant that employed Omar Mateen and reported that the company said 2 separate screenings, one conducted upon hiring and the other in 2013, had raised no red flags. G4S was subsequently fined for lapses in its psychological testing program. The Miami Herald helped expose an alleged clerical error on the Orlando killer's psychological eval, which had conveniently named the wrong doctor. Citing the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, Mateen held an active statewide firearms license and an active security officer license, had passed a psychological test, and had no criminal record. After the shooting, a psychologist who reportedly evaluated and cleared Mateen for his firearms license in 2007 by G4S records denied ever meeting him or having lived in Florida at the time, and said she had stopped her practice in Florida since January of 2006. G4S admitted Mateen's form had a clerical error and clarified that he had instead been cleared by another psychologist from the same firm that bought the wrongly named doctor's practice. This doctor had not interviewed Mateen, but evaluated the results of a standard test used in the screening he undertook before being hired. On September 10th, the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services fined G4S Secure Solutions $151,400 for providing inaccurate psychological testing information on more than 1,500 forms over a 10-year period, which allowed employees to carry firearms. Mateen's form was among those investigated. Despite numerous anonymous and named reports of LGBTQ connections, the FBI was unable to verify any claims that Mateen was homosexual or frequented gay bars. The FBI investigation found the witnesses claiming Mateen's homosexuality were mistaken or refused to go on the record, and doubts that Mateen was gay. Law enforcement sources said the FBI found no photographs, text messages, smartphone apps, pornography, or cell tower location data to suggest Mateen lived a gay life, closeted or otherwise. On the day of the shooting, Mateen's father, Mir Siddiqui Mateen, said that he had seen his son get angry after seeing a gay couple kiss in front of his family at the Bayside Marketplace in Miami months prior to the shooting, which he suggested might have been a motivating factor. 2 days later, after his son's sexual orientation became a subject of speculation, Mateen's father said he did not believe his son was homosexual. In March 2018, during his wife's trial, the defense revealed in a motion that Mateen had Googled downtown Orlando nightclubs, and after passing Disney Springs, traveled between Pulse and the Eve Orlando nightclub before choosing to target Pulse. Cell phone records indicate that the final selection of the Pulse appears to have been made based on the lack of security, not because it was a gay club. Trial witnesses said the decision to target Pulse was made at the last minute, and the defense's motion argued that this strongly suggests that the attack on Pulse was not a result of a prior plan to attack a gay nightclub. However, this did not prevent various officials within the Obama administration and Clinton campaign, along with their co-conspirators in the Mockingbird media, from labeling this event as an act of hate, along with their counterparts at the United Nations Security Council, who issued a statement condemning the shooting for targeting persons as a result of their sexual orientation. The evil succubus Samantha Power, United States ambassador to the UN, even led a group of 17 UN ambassadors on a visit to what's considered the historic LGBTQ landmark Stonewall Inn to express their support for LGBTQ rights in response to the shooting. The official narrative formed on June 13th, when FBI Director James Comey told reporters, "So far, we see no indication that this was a plot directed from outside the United States, and we see no indication that he was part of any kind of network." He said the United States intelligence community was highly confident this killer was radicalized, at least in part, through the internet, and that the investigation had found strong indications of radicalization by this killer and of potential inspiration by foreign terrorist organizations. Several days after the shooting, the FBI announced on its website that it had become the lead law enforcement agency responsible for investigating the shooting at Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida on June 12, 2016. The agency conveniently took the lead after the shooting was classified as a terrorist attack due to Mateen's pledge of allegiance to the Islamic State during the event. On June 16th, CIA Director John Brennan told the Senate Intelligence Committee that his agency was unable to uncover any link between Mateen and the Islamic State. Interestingly, the very same month, the House Intelligence Committee said that United States investigators are searching for details about the trips Omar Mateen had made to Saudi Arabia in 2011 and 2012. The Guardian reported Senate Intelligence Committee member Angus King said that Mateen's second wife appears to have had some knowledge of what was going on. Other media reports, citing anonymous law enforcement officials, said she was with Mateen as he scouted possible Orlando area targets, including the Walt Disney World Resort's Disney Springs and the Pulse nightclub, and that she was also with him when he purchased ammunition and a holster in the months leading up to the attack. Mateen's second wife and widow, Noor Salman, was arrested in January 2017 at her home in California. She was subsequently charged in federal court in Orlando with aiding and abetting as well as obstruction of justice. Salman's trial took place in March of 2018. During the trial, the prosecution revealed it withheld information during discovery that Salman's confession of helping scout potential attack locations was not true, based on cell phone evidence, and that the FBI knew this, even though it had been used to deny her bail. The defense also sought to dismiss the charges or declare a mistrial on Brady disclosure grounds. After this disclosure, and on March 24, 2018, Sarah Sweeney, the assistant attorney prosecuting Mateen's wife, disclosed to her defense after the discovery period that the father of Omar Mateen and her father-in-law, Siddique Mateen, was actually an FBI informant for the past 11 years at various points between January 2005 and June 2016. FBI agent Juvenile Martin, who handled the elder Siddique Mateen since 2006, even admitted he considered making Omar an informant as well, after he was also given the task of investigating and clearing him in 2013. FBI informant and father of Omar Mateen would be inexplicably spotted attending a Hillary Clinton rally not far from where the shooting happened, only 2 months after the event. ABC News reported that the father of Orlando nightclub shooter was seen sitting behind Clinton at her rally. The presence of Siddique Mateen and his proximity to a presidential candidate raised eyebrows. He was seated in an area directly behind Clinton, within view of cameras broadcasting the event. A U.S. Secret Service official declined to discuss Mateen specifically, but said that the roughly 3,000 participants at the Clinton rally in Florida all received the exact same screening. Though on television, it appeared that Mateen was close to Clinton. He was well outside of the security buffer zone in a location that a longtime Republican presidential campaign advance staffer described as a tapestry, an area where a diverse group would be seated to reflect wide-ranging support for the candidate. The presidential campaign should take a more cautious approach to selecting who's in the shot. But accidents happen, the Republican staffer told ABC News. During the rally, Clinton even mentioned the shooting from 2 months earlier and acknowledged that the community is still grieving. Siddique Mateen was not investigated for any wrongdoing in connection to June's shooting. As for his political beliefs, he told NBC West Palm Beach affiliate that he supports Clinton. He said, "Hillary Clinton is good for United States versus Donald Trump, who has no solutions." To that point, the late great author Daniel Hopsicker dedicated an article to Omar's father and longtime FBI informant Siddique Mateen, only he provides an additional startling connection which should give pause to even the most indoctrinated among us. The article was given the proper title, Orlando Shooting Dad, a longtime CIA asset, and begins by describing father of the man who slaughtered 50 people in the Orlando nightclub shooting is a longtime CIA asset, whose TV show receives funding from the Voice of America, Dari. Siddique Mateen happens to be pictured with California Republican Congressman Dana Rohrabacher. Rohrabacher was initially elected to Congress in 1988 with the fundraising help of friend Oliver North. Rohrabacher's decades-long involvement in all things Afghan eventually earned him the nickname Gunga Dana. He chaired the United States House Foreign Affairs Subcommittee on Europe, Eurasia, and Emerging Threats. President Obama called him a homegrown terrorist. In a series of phone interviews, Donald Trump responded, "There's something going on with the president's reaction to the Orlando shooting." Orlando shooter Omar Mateen's father said his son was not motivated by Islamist radical ideology. "My own suspicion was first awakened when U.S. news outlets uniformly reported that the father's TV show aired on a U.S.-based Afghan satellite channel. That sort of circumlocution is typical when something is being hidden which the corporate media prefers we not ask questions about. The name of the nameless Afghan satellite channel, Payam Afghan, is said to be widely known in Southwest Asia as a CIA Pakistani ISI construct. The identification of shooter Omar Mateen also involved deception. He was said to work for a security company called G4S, which few have ever heard of. However, G4S is merely a rebranded Wackenhut Corporation, a name with a storied reputation for scandal in the US and around the world. Rohrabacher has stated that he sees radical Islam as the source of a major terrorist threat to the US. Calls to his office to request comment on whether he views CIA assets relocated in the US as a terrorist threat have not been returned. Most of you, I assume, are very familiar with the infamous Wackenhut Corporation by this point, due to its consistent reemergence from time to time in the darkest of circumstances. One example being the terror networks created by Operation Gladio, which is of course deeply interconnected with CIA-backed fascist paramilitary organizations, the infamous BCCI scandal, and Danny Casalero's octopus. The Wackenhut Corporation was originally founded in 1954 in Coral Gables, Florida by George Wackenhut and 3 partners, all former FBI agents. In 1983, Wackenhut's 3-year, $81 million contract at the Savannah River Nuclear Weapons Facility in South Carolina was the largest paramilitary security contract ever awarded by the U.S. government. Wackenhut outbid 18 other bidders to win the contract and brought in 460 uniformed security professionals and 50 administrative support personnel as part of just this single contract. In 2002, the company was acquired for $570 million by Danish corporation group 4Falk, itself then merged to form the company G4S in 2004. In 2010, G4S Wackenhut changed its name to G4S Secure Solutions. Its Americas region headquarters is in Jupiter, Florida. On June 12, 2016, Omar Mateen, who worked at G4S from 2007 until his death, committed one of the largest mass shootings in the United States history. Mateen's employment as an armed guard helped to facilitate his access to firearms and the firearms refresher courses he took each 4 years at G4S. The company's inability to detect prior warning signals brought it under widespread scrutiny. In 2010, Mateen was videotaped while working security for G4S at a site related to the BP oil spill. The claim that Mateen had a family connection to Al-Qaeda and had said that he was a member of Hezbollah happened to originate from his co-workers at G4S. This is apparently when the county sheriff's office called in the FBI. According to reports from the Miami Herald and the New York Times, when G4S became aware that the FBI was investigating Mateen, they did not dismiss Mateen. They transferred him to the South Guardhouse of the PGA Village, a gated community in Palm Beach County. FBI Director James Comey would later repeat the claims allegedly made by Mateen's G4S co-workers. Comey would say, Mateen had made statements to his co-workers that were inflammatory and contradictory. He claimed a family connection to Al-Qaeda and said he was a member of Hezbollah, a bitter enemy of the Islamic State. He said he hoped law enforcement would raid his apartment and assault his wife and child so he could martyr himself. We've finally arrived at the point in the story where it starts to become quite unbelievable, to put it mildly. Yet simultaneously, our apprehensive nature causes us to recognize the all too familiar patterns which ultimately leads to a sort of cynical skepticism regarding the official narrative. The inherent reaction to a covert policy of domestic disruption and destabilization intended to achieve measurable objectives for this sophisticated psychological operation known as the MindWar. An article was published at wearechange.org 3 days after the tragedy at the Pulse nightclub, June 15, 2016. The headline read, Manufactured Terrorism, the Orlando-Santa Monica Connection. Sources within the Santa Monica Police Department claim that James Wesley Howell, an Indiana man who was caught with explosives and weapons on Sunday morning, told the Santa Monica police that as many as 5 people were involved in planned attacks on gay communities in both Florida and California. According to the LA Times, Santa Monica Police Chief Jacqueline Seabrooks initially said on Twitter that the 20-year-old Indiana man James Howell told one of her officers after he was arrested that he wanted to harm the gay pride event. However, after the FBI quickly took over the case, a Santa Monica police spokesman, Saul Rodriguez, indicated that Seabrooks was mistaken and offered that the Santa Monica detectives who were working the case are not aware of what the suspect's intentions were at this point. The official version of this story, released by the LA Times, falsely claims that on early Sunday, Santa Monica police had received a call about a suspected prowler who was knocking on a resident's door and window about 5 a.m. in the 1700 block of 11th Street, Santa Monica police said. Patrol officers responded and encountered Howell, who was sitting in a car registered in Indiana. Officers inspected the car and found 3 assault rifles, high-capacity ammunition, and a 5-gallon bucket containing chemicals capable of forming an improvised explosive device. A law enforcement source who spoke on condition of anonymity said the contents of the bucket included tannerite, an ingredient that could be used to create pipe bombs. A source, who was not authorized to speak publicly about the ongoing investigation, said authorities also found camouflage clothing in the car. Los Angeles County Sheriff's officials said the suspect told police he was going to the Pride Parade to look for a friend. Authorities were looking for that individual. The real truth of the story was released to a former Los Angeles County prosecutor by 2 Santa Monica police officers that have been issued gag orders under threat of federal prosecution for further discussing the incident. According to 2 department sources, Howell called the Santa Monica police on Sunday morning, claiming that he needed protection from the CIA. Howell further elaborated to the dispatcher, stating that he had been set up by the CIA. "They are going to kill me." According to Howell, he was in LA to meet with another person in a collaborated attack on the gay communities in both Florida and Los Angeles. Howell additionally stated that everything has gone south. Dan was gone when I got here. They killed the leader of the Florida attack this morning. They're going to kill me. I need protection. According to sources within the police department's investigation, Howell indicated to officers who first made contact with him that he was one of 5 people involved in a planned Sunday attack on both the East and West coasts. Howell stated that he was supposed to hook up late Saturday night with his contact in LA, who was supposed to have more weapons and chemicals to mix with the tannerite he was in possession of. When I got here, Dan was gone. I went to his apartment and he had cleared out. I tried calling him, but he never answered me, said Howell. When questioned about the other 4 people involved in the plot, Howell was only familiar with the first names of 3 of the alleged suspects, naming his contact in LA, Man, and 2 of the 3 contacts in Florida, Omar and Brandy. Speaking of the suspect killed in the Pulse Bar massacre in Florida, Howell stated, "Omar was not supposed to be killed. They lied to us. Omar and Brandy were supposed to get away." When Howell was questioned about how he and his conspirators knew each other, he said that, "We were all familiar with each other through an online fundamental Islamic knowledge seminary course. We were recruited through the course and trained together at a camp in Virginia. We were taught how to shoot and make bombs. Everyone knew their part. Something went wrong." Before the officers could further question Howell, agents working for the Los Angeles office of the FBI quickly swept in and took over the case. Santa Monica detectives were never allowed to talk with Howell. 2 months later, the Millennium Report published an article covering an explosive story that went entirely unacknowledged. Credibility of this story hangs in the balance, largely due to a lack of substantial corroborating evidence. But the implications of this sordid tale seem to emphasize what can only be described as a state-sponsored clandestine domestic terror operation and radicalization pipeline, seemingly targeting emotionally troubled young men and women online with the intention of enticing them into committing terrorist acts. According to the article, suspected assassin Michael Steven Sanford, who recently attempted to assassinate Donald Trump at a Las Vegas rally, was trained by undercover FBI agents posing as Islamic terrorists alongside Omar Mateen and James Wesley Howell. Before falling down this particular rabbit hole, I was somehow unaware of the 2016 Donald Trump Las Vegas rally incident. Apparently on June 18th, 2016, only 6 days removed from the Orlando massacre at the Pulse nightclub, 20-year-old Michael Steven Sanford, a British citizen, attempted to grab the service pistol of a Las Vegas Metropolitan Police officer who was providing security for the event. Having failed to do so, and having been arrested, Sanford claimed that he had wished to kill Trump to prevent him from being elected U.S. president. Sanford was sentenced to 12 months and 1 day of imprisonment and was released and deported to the United Kingdom after only 11 months in custody. Fox News had recently reported that according to FBI Director James Comey, Mateen was a follower of a controversial gang leader turned bank robber Marcus Dwayne Robertson, who has been identified by the FBI and Homeland Security as a recruiter for terrorists and for his repeated acts of inciting violence. It's important to mention the fact that as I attempted to verify these claims, I instantly discovered an additional thread describing Marcus Dwayne Robertson as a former U.S. Marine and FBI agent turned Muslim extremist who happened to be Omar Mateen's imam in Orlando, and if you can believe it, was once upon a time the bodyguard for the blind sheikh Omar Abdulrahman in the 1990s. According to the National Review, in an article written by Andrew C. McCarthy, who served as the Assistant United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York and led the 1995 terrorism prosecution against Omar Abdulrahman and 11 others. In 1993, a man by the name of Clement Hampton L. was recorded in a conversation by FBI informant explaining that it had recently become harder for him to get detonators because his sources had recently been arrested by the FBI in Pennsylvania. He described these sources as members of a gang that robbed banks and post offices, activities ordinarily illegal under Islamic law, that, according to the blind sheikh, were permissible as long as a chunk of the proceeds went to support jihad. In the recorded conversation, Hampton L. recounted being a longtime friend of the father-in-law of one of the arrested men. Because of that, he contributed money for the man's defense. To his great annoyance, Hampton L. learned that the arrested man had cooperated with the FBI and talked on everybody. Under cross-examination, he admitted to being a longtime friend of a man named Soleiman El Hadi, who just happened to have a son-in-law named Marcus Robertson. In a remarkable coincidence, Robertson just happened to have been arrested by the FBI in Pennsylvania, to have pled guilty to a series of bank and post office robberies, and to have gotten sentencing leniency because he cooperated with the government. Grudgingly, Hampton L. conceded that he just might know Marcus Robertson personally, might have had some meetings with him, and might even have seen him in the company of the blind sheikh at the Farouk Mosque. Small world. Well, Fox News reports that in 1991, Marcus Robertson joined with other Muslims who were former security guards in a robbery gang they dubbed Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves. According to a private investigator in Florida, the group committed armed robberies of more than 10 banks, private homes, and post offices, shot 3 police officers, and attacked 1 cop after he was injured by a homemade pipe bomb. It is alleged that Robertson, Ali Baba, donated more than $300,000 of the robbery proceeds to mosques he attended. Fox says prosecutors also claim Robertson has committed murders in addition to using pipe bombs, C4, and other explosives. Nevertheless, he has never been convicted of those things and was given extraordinary leniency in the robbery case, serving just 4 years in prison. Physically, Robertson is a very capable man. He served in the Marine Corps from 1986 until 1990, when he was reportedly discharged as a corporal, having been trained in marksmanship, scuba diving, counter-terrorism, parachuting, surveillance tactics, communications equipment, infantry patrolling, and finance. Fox could not verify Robertson's claims to have served in the Joint Special Operations Command, an elite counterterrorism unit. Reportedly, his military training and involvement with both crime and terrorists convinced federal intelligence agencies that he might be a useful covert operative. This reflects a seamy side of national security, particularly in the field of foreign intelligence. The sort of people who can credibly pass for violent jihadists in order to infiltrate terror cells will often be former violent jihadists. In Robertson's case, it is reported that he agreed to work for the government, gathering intelligence both overseas and in the United States. According to Fox, however, he was expelled from the covert informant program in early 2007 after attacking his CIA handler in Africa. By 2008, he surfaced in Orlando and became known by his Muslim name, Abu Taba. The Investigative Project on Terrorism reported in 2012 that Robertson was the imam at the Al-Ihsan Mosque, formerly the Islamic Center of Orlando. He also ran an online Muslim education enterprise known for years as the Fundamental Islamic Knowledge Seminary, although the name was recently changed to the Timbuktu Seminary. Robertson's seminary has apparently been a springboard for lecturing gigs at universities in the United States and overseas. Omar Mateen, the terrorist who killed 49 people and wounded over 50 others at a gay nightclub, had enrolled in Robertson's seminary. At least one other student of Robertson's has been convicted, along with Robertson, in a case that had terrorism implications. The government suspects, with abundant reason it appears, that Robertson's prominence in the mosque, the online seminary, and the teaching circuit have given him ample opportunity to radicalize young Muslim men, not only indoctrinating them in Sharia supremacist ideology, but also possibly providing them with paramilitary training. For example, Robertson is alleged to have instructed one of his Orlando students, Jonathan Paul Jimenez, to file false tax returns for the purpose of obtaining funds that would pay for travel to Mauritania for jihadist training. Prosecutors, Fox reports, produced intercepted conversations showing that Robertson had trained Jimenez in killing, suicide bombing, and identifying and murdering United States military personnel. Of course, if the government's evidence had been as compelling as the Fox report makes it sound, one would figure that Robertson and Jimenez would have been charged with terrorism crimes. But the statements outlined in the Fox report appear to involve Jimenez talking about Robertson, not Robertson himself volunteering anything incriminating. Robertson's computers also raised alarms when agents searched them and found documents about terrorist ideology from the U.S. Military Academy's Combating Terrorism Center, along with military reports on psyops and interrogation. It is not illegal, however, to possess these items, notwithstanding their obvious usefulness to a trainer of terrorists. In any event, it appears that Jimenez was charged only with false statements and conspiring to defraud the IRS. He was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment. Robertson was apparently charged with some kind of minor firearms offense in 2011 and pled guilty in January 2012. 2 months later, Justice Department charged him with the Jimenez tax fraud conspiracy, for which he was found guilty in 2013. In neither case did the government charge him with terrorism crimes. Yet prosecutors tried to slide terrorism into the mix at sentencing. They urged that in imposing sentence on Robertson for the gun and fraud counts, U.S. District Judge Gregory Presnell should factor in that he had been involved in terrorism activities focused on training others to commit violent acts. Abu Taba, or Marcus Dwayne Robertson, Imam of the Masjid al-Ihsan Mosque in Orlando, was found guilty of firearms violations and sentenced to 20 months in prison in June 2015. Our final chapter is devoted to assessing the credibility of James Wesley Howell's statements. According to the article published at the Millennium Report, although Fox News didn't report a connection between Mateen, Howell, and Sanford, Howell's statements to Santa Monica police officers at the time of his arrest and an interview at the Los Angeles County Jail between attorney and investigative reporter Brenda Corpian and James Howell have brought some very disturbing facts to light. Full disclosure, it's crucial to point out the fact that the name Brenda Corpian is in reality a pseudonym for a former Los Angeles County prosecutor who now works as a journalist in an effort to remain anonymous. Allegedly, Howell was able to further elaborate on his original statements when Brenda was allowed to speak with him in an interview at the Los Angeles County Jail as a licensed attorney who was considering representing him. Brenda begins by asking the question, "You originally mentioned 3 other people you went through training with. However, you only mentioned the names of 2 of the people you trained with. Do you now remember who the 3rd person was?" Howell responds, "Your guy got that fucked up. I told the cops what I knew. I trained with 4 other people, not 3. We were part of one group. There were at least 8 groups that we seen, maybe more. Do you know what kind of activities these other groups were being trained for? I don't know. Probably the same shit we were learning. I mean, we sometimes trained together on some stuff. What kind of training did you receive at the camp? What did you train with others to do?" "The usual stuff, I guess. Making pipe bombs, mixing chemical explosives, military shit." "James, could you be more specific? What do you mean by military shit? Were you ever in the military?" "No, I never made that trip, but I've seen a lot of deep shit. I think everyone had his or her own thing going on. They taught several of us how to shoot. Others were taught how to blow shit up. All of us had to take our turns in the gas room." "The gas room?" "Yeah, it was really fucked up. We had to go into this room with gas masks on and take them off after they shot the gas in. It was jacked up." It appears that Hal and others he was trained with went through an abbreviated version of what the Army dubs basic training. Additionally, it appears that selective training was given to others for specific assignments. Hal and Omar were trained to handle automatic weapons and explosives. Hal witnessed at least 5 other people being trained to shoot what Hal described as long rifles. We all called Dan the chemist. He seemed to get off on making bombs and setting things on fire. I remember a time one of his firecrackers came within inches of blowing some ball bearings through Michael's leg. "Man, that Brit was pissed," said Hal. "Brit? Who is Michael?" "The guy in Vegas. Weird motherfucker. We called him the Brit because he was from England or someplace like that. We went and partied one night with him. He has a nice Beamer." "I'm not sure I understand what you mean by the guy in Vegas. Beamer. Do you mean BMW? The guy they arrested for trying to grab that cop's gun to shoot Trump with. Yeah, BMW. Beamer. I'm into lowered Hondas and Acuras. I have a sweet ride." Hal definitely made it clear while he was talking to Brenda that he knew Michael Sanford, recently arrested at a Trump rally for trying to disarm a Las Vegas Metropolitan Police officer, a gun Sanford later claimed to the U.S. Secret Service he would have used to shoot Donald Trump. Brenda reported that during the time she talked to Howell, he seemed scared one moment, and at other moments he was flirting with her. It was obvious to Brenda that Hal was very scared of what might happen to him while in custody. He tried to add levity to the conversation to appear somewhat tough. Brenda wrote in her story, I doubt very seriously that the recent reports that Hal is bisexual are accurate. The whole time I talked to him, his eyes were glued to my breasts. He made no attempt to hide the fact that he was turned on by my chest. According to Hal, he first came in contact with Imam Abu Taba, aka Marcus Dwayne Robertson, a former Marine who was the leader of what Hal believed was an ISIS cell group training and operating in the U.S. Hal, Mateen, and Sanford were allegedly recruited by Robertson through an online fundamental Islamic knowledge seminary course, which Robertson conducts. I had no idea that the CIA was involved until I arrived at the camp in Virginia with the others to start our training. I have read about places like the camp, but it was not what I was expecting. I don't think anyone else was expecting it either, said Hal. Hal was unsure of exactly how many people were at the camp with him, and or what particular missions, if any, the other recruits were being trained for. People came in and out. Omar, Dan, and me were always together. We knew what we were supposed to do. It appears Hal and his fellow conspirators were told very clearly to keep their mouths shut about what they were going to do and to not ask others about their assignments, roles, if any. Brenda's interview came to an end when someone at the jail abruptly shut off the phones Hal and her were speaking through. Although it is normal procedure for a client and their attorney to talk in privacy in an interview room, the authorities, despite Brenda's license to practice law in California, would not allow Brenda to speak with Hal in an attorney-client interview room. Additionally, the phone interview should not have been monitored, which is obvious that it was because after Hal had already described two people and was halfway through naming the last name of a third person, the phone system was shut down and Brenda was rudely escorted out of the building. You have mentioned Dan, Omar, and Michael. Did you recognize anyone else that you may have known previously or seen on TV or read about? They often meet with Abu. They seemed especially interested in Michael. The senator was often accompanied by a woman who I've seen on television hundreds of times. She doesn't work for the government anymore, but I think her husband does. Yeah, her name is... End of interview. According to Brenda's report, Howell claims that Robertson was seen several times meeting with a current U.S. senator, a high-ranking member of Homeland Security, and was releasing the name of a woman, that we have a good idea of her identity from his description of her, and what was heard of her name before the interview was abruptly ended. Frankly, Brenda was not convinced that Hal was completely honest with her during her interview with him. However, many things that Hal said are consistent with the recent Fox report concerning Robertson and a 365 USA News report concerning some very strange recruitment activities that are being done by the FBI, according to FBI Director James Comey. However, she was completely convinced that Hal definitely knows Sanford because at the time of her interview with Hal, he mentioned several pieces of information that included specific information concerning the vehicle Sanford drove to Las Vegas, which had not yet been reported until Brenda's interview with Hal. Brenda also expressed concern that Hal may have embellished part of his story to impress her. As the story goes, Hal allegedly told Brenda Corpian that he had witnessed Hillary Clinton and Uma Abedin at the CIA Islamic Terror training camp in Virginia. The interview was terminated at that very moment, and around 15 hours later, Corpian was severely beaten by 3 unidentified men and left for dead in a dumpster. She was discovered and taken to a hospital where she was expected to recover from her injuries while being heavily guarded by private security in a hospital ICU. It's difficult to gauge the credibility of such extraordinary claims when critical information is being largely withheld from public knowledge. After digging a little deeper into the story and background of the LA Patsy, I quickly discovered that the Los Angeles Times had reported in July of 2018 that James Wesley Howell, 22, pleaded no contest to possession of an explosive chemical, malicious possession of a destructive device, and illegal weapon activity, according to a news release issued by the LA County District Attorney's Office. Santa Monica police arrested Hal on June 12, 2016. Inside his car, police found 3 rifles, including an Anderson Manufacturing AM-15 .223 caliber rifle that police described as an assault weapon, and 2 30-round magazines. In addition to the guns, Hal was also driving with a full 5-gallon container of gasoline and a 25-pound container of shock shot, a commercially sold 2-component explosive that detonates when hit by a high-velocity rifle round, Santa Monica police said at the time. The amount of explosives in the container would have posed a grave danger to both persons and property had the explosives been detonated either intentionally or accidentally, Santa Monica Detective Derek Leone wrote in a court filing in 2016. Howell also had a black hood, a taser, handcuffs, a buck knife, a security badge, and additional ammunition for the guns, court records show. His arrest created a massive panic, as it came just hours after the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando that claimed 49 lives. Santa Monica police also mistakenly tweeted that Howell intended to harm people at LA Pride. It was later revealed police did not actually know why Howell was headed toward the event. Howell had no ties to California and told police he was fleeing from potential criminal charges in his home state. He was later charged with molesting a 12-year-old girl in Henryville, Indiana, court records show. Investigators have not said what they believe Howell's intentions were. The Indy Star reported on the story by explaining that the child molestation charge in Indiana comes the day after Los Angeles County, California officials announced numerous charges against Howell. The alleged molestation happened just days before Howell was last seen in Indiana. According to a probable cause affidavit filed in the case and interviews conducted by Indy Star with the victim's family, Howell was supposed to take the girl to a family friend's house on May 31st. Before dropping her off, according to court documents, Howell parked the car in Indiana's Clark State Forest and began kissing and undressing the juvenile. At the park, they crawled in the back seat of Howell's car and did things they should not have been doing, the victim's mother told Indy Star. The girl does not understand why Howell is in trouble, her mother said. Her daughter considered Howell as a boyfriend, and she doesn't see herself as being sexually abused. Court documents show the daughter told investigators that she was never forced to have sex with Howell, and according to the mother, the two spoke about getting married after the girl grew old enough. In the days following the incident, Howell started threatening to kill himself and members of the victim's family, and if police officers attempted to arrest him, he would kill them too. Howell sent a message to someone close to the victim saying he was a sociopath with an automatic. One final story of note, which perfectly aligns with our revisionist narrative, comes in the form of Dallas shooter Micah Xavier Johnson of Mesquite, Texas, who, according to NBC News, was the lone gunman responsible for shooting 11 people, killing 5 police officers in Dallas, Texas during a Black Lives Matter protest. Less than a month after the Pulse nightclub shooting on Thursday, July 7, 2016, the 25-year-old Army Reserve Afghan war veteran was allegedly angry over police shootings of black men, so he shot the officers at the end of a protest against the recent killings by police of Alton Sterling in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and Philando Castile in Falcon Heights, Minnesota. Johnson fled to a building on the campus of El Centro College, where police killed him several hours later with a bomb attached to a remote-controlled bomb disposal robot. It was the first time U.S. law enforcement used a robot to kill a suspect. Within the digital library of the Internet Archive, journalist Brian Michael wrote an article on July 9th, 2 days after the Dallas shooting, claiming that Johnson shared 2 things in common with the Orlando gunman Omar Mateen, James Wesley Howell, who planned to attack the Los Angeles Pride Parade, and Michael Stephen Sanford, who attempted to assassinate Donald Trump in Las Vegas. In an exclusive interview with Marcus Dwayne Robertson, he informed us that Micah Johnson enrolled in his online fundamental Islamic seminary course in August of 2015. According to Fox News, the FBI has identified Robertson as a convicted bank robber and for his recruiting terrorists and inciting violence. Mateen, Powell, and Sanford were all students of Robertson through his Islamic seminary course. When asked if Johnson knew either Howell, Mateen, or Sanford, Robertson said that he could not comment on their relationships with each other. However, he also said many of our assignments require students to work together to complete group assignments. They would have studied together on several occasions to complete their studies. Dallas police said that detectives found bomb-making materials, ballistic vests, rifles, ammunition, and a personal journal of combat tactics in Johnson's home. Johnson used an SKS rifle and a handgun in the attack, multiple law enforcement sources told NBC News. Santa Monica police sources previously speaking to Brenda Corpian off the record confirmed that at the time of James Howell's arrest, he was in possession of 3 SKS assault rifles. Sources within the Dallas police have claimed that the rifles found in Johnson's home were traced to a weapon supplier who sells to foreign governments and local state and federal agencies. Brenda Corpian has never established how Mateen, Howell, and Sanford's connection with Robertson led all of them to a CIA training camp in Virginia. However, their connection with Robertson turned out to be more than a coincidence when her interview with Howell and his initial statement to the Santa Monica police established the fact they all knew and had trained with each other in a Virginia camp Howell believes was operated by the CIA. Can we say for sure that Micah Johnson's enrollment with Robertson's Islamic seminary course is more than just a coincidence? No. But coincidences of this nature are very hard to believe. Use your own best judgment as to whether or not we have found yet another mentally ill person targeted and trained by the FBI or CIA, who for some reason was deemed not to be a threat and escaped their attention only to commit another unexplained terrorist attack. In the end, the unethical aims of our ruling class have been extensively documented. The psychological framework of modern society has largely been manufactured through deceptive tactics of social engineering and state-sponsored violence, deliberately designed to elicit a long-desired predetermined outcome. The story of individual degradation seamlessly paired with emotionally arousing violent false flags and manufactured mass casualty events, complete with false motives and conveniently generated media spin. Yet another example of an alternative narrative, providing a much more plausible explanation for what was considered the deadliest terrorist attack in the United States since the September 11th attacks, and the deadliest mass shooting event in modern U.S. history until the 2017 Las Vegas shooting. As is always the case, there is much more to the story, painting a far different picture than that of the official narrative. As they say, the devil is in the details, and so our involuntary dance with the devil comes to an end. Another desperate attempt to uncover the malevolent machinations of these wicked tyrants and insufferable despots beyond contempt. Our apprehensive nature, causing us to recognize the all too familiar patterns, which ultimately leads to a sort of cynical skepticism regarding the official narrative. The inherent reaction to a covert policy of domestic disruption and destabilization intended to achieve measurable objectives for this sophisticated psychological operation known as the Mind War.